everyone. Welcome to From the Ground Up. My name is John Boitnott. We are a Grit Daily sponsored podcast. We're also sponsored by CEO Official Mag. And on this show, we talk to entrepreneurs about the companies that they're running and what they're doing in the world and the ideas to hopefully get the entrepreneurs out there and those who want to be entrepreneurs advice for how to run their businesses better and all the rest of that. Today, I'm joined by Dominic Kwong or Dom Kwong. Good to see you, Dom. How are you?
Hey John, I'm all right, man. I'm all right. Today I'm okay. We'll see about tomorrow, but you know what? I'm happy to be here and have this conversation with you, man.
Yeah, coming to us all the way from Vancouver, Canada. I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, and Dom, your company is called Damon Inc. Tell us
That's
all,
right.
all about Damon Inc. and also sort of give us a brief history of you yourself and how you got to where you're at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Well, Damon Inc. is a personal mobility company. What that means is that we were born from developing motorcycle technologies, and we're still on that path. And so what we've done is we've had a chance to look at greater mobility. So what are people doing with different modes of transportation. Everything from, when kids get on their first e-scooter to an e-bike to a motorcycle of different makes and models and whatnot. And we want to be able to provide you enabling technology, not only the hardware itself, the motorcycle or the mobility vehicle, but also the digital experience. What is the digital product? What do the interactions between yourself and say, an app on a phone, how does it make your daily life, whether you're commuting, going out for a recreational ride, or this last adventure, which is a growing one, last mile delivery, how can you do those things as easy and as safe as possible? And
Right.
then a little bit on myself. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm a, I don't know if I should say that. I'm an engineer. I'm a radio engineer, and I used to make smartphones before they were smart. I was fortunate enough to be at a company called Sierra Wireless back in the mid '90s, where they were pioneering wireless data. I did that for about 12 years, and after that, had some stints doing consulting. I worked at Intel, working on heads-up display technology for ski goggles and sports eyewear. Had the great pleasure of working with startups all the way to large corporations, like I said, Intel, right, where they have 150,000 employees globally, to meeting my future and now former founder and building Damon, which is about making the world of mobility safer and smarter for everybody.
All right, yeah. Damon Inc. So, what is sort of your vision for the company? It's not just about e-bikes or electric motorcycles, that sort of thing. There's a bigger plan. Tell us about what the company looks like right now, and what sort of that vision is for how it's the products and the services and everything.
Yeah, as I said before, our vision is to combine the vehicle technology and user experience all in this holistic package. And like I said, it's meant to make your life a lot easier, meaning that it's meant to automate a lot of the activities that you take for granted whenever you're again commuting to and from school or going out for a recreational ride, or using these type of vehicles for delivery services, whether it's food, people, or parcels. That's what mobility is all about now. And so right today we have a focus on building a track vehicle, and that is really, we call it the HyperSport race. We are doing it with a partner called Engineering in Italy, and we are doing this as a way to showcase to the world how these three items, vehicle, technology, and user experience, can be combined in a holistic package, both from a hardware and software perspective. So, why track? I think it's the best way for us to get our technology that we've been working on, which is really centered around safety, out into the masses as quickly as possible. And so we have a digital platform called Damon IO, which basically gives the onboarding process and also the the review of your activity. So after you're done, you get a chance to see exactly how you did it, what you want to improve on, and how can you prepare yourself to be better next time around. So that shows up in the form of either an app or a web interface that you can connect on any laptop, computer, or desktop.
That's great. Yeah. So your owners, the backers, the investors,
Yeah.
what type of grouping is that? And tell me about that. How are you assembling your team?
Yeah, so those that invested in us, honestly, they just fundamentally believed in our mission of safety. When you talk about motorcycling, safety doesn't even come up in the equation. Again, from the outside looking in, it these things are oil and water, right? It just seems like it just doesn't mix safety and motorcycles. However, um, there is a way to do that. There is a way to like make salad dressing and to shake it up and make salad dressing, which is basically taking commodity systems like blind spot system that you find on cars, right? So, it's been tried, tested, and true. How can you take that system and adopt it for the world of two-wheel mobility or even three-wheel mobility, right? And there's ways of doing that. And then also one of the areas that we are breaking through into in this industry in mobility, and quite frankly also in the auto sector, is how do we, like, every day we generate gobs of data. There's sensors everywhere, right? So when we're driving our car or riding our motorcycle, we are generating a lot of data, whether it's like, hey, how does this car or motorcycle work? How do the tires on the car work? How, what is my experience with, like, say, Waze or Google Maps as I'm navigating from point A to point B, back to A again? We are generating heaps of data. But then the question is, what does it all mean, right? Like, and the answer is it means a lot to different audiences, right? So you have the end consumer. So one of the things that we're doing with Damon IO is to add context to that data so that we can generate action or generate insights and information that leads to an action that has value, right? So for example, if I was under if I was analyzing your daily commute, how your driving behavior, right? One of the things that I can pick up on is that, hey, maybe you like to make right turns more than you like to make left turns. So then the navigation system would try to avoid making, left turns into uncomfortable spots where you yourself don't feel comfortable making, right? So it's dangerous, right? So, okay, fine. Maybe we'll make a series of more right turns. Yeah, the time is going to be longer, but you get there feeling a sense of control and therefore safety, right? Other aspects of this is like, okay, we are not a tire manufacturer, but we buy those things, and they're very useful, right? Well, tire manufacturers really don't understand what's happening with their tires once it leaves the factory floor. But we have the data and we have the sensors to be able to monitor the usage of a tire on a daily basis so that we can then turn that information into real-time insights to that tire manufacturer, which of course, it has monetary value to that.
Yeah. So you guys are you're actually building the e-bikes or
The
describe.
motorcycles? Yeah. Yeah, so
Yeah.
HyperSport race, yeah, we are building them with a partner in Italy called Engines Engineering, and yeah, we do expect to see them early next year.
Okay, great. And so you're this is part of a sort of a public offering, the HyperSport Race Program. Tell me just a little bit more about that you haven't explained already.
Yeah.
What that's going to look like, what you hope next year will look like, what you announced this year, all that.
Yeah, so the HyperSport race is a vehicle that we are going to sell, right? So
Yeah.
we haven't launched the pre-order campaign yet, but we are planning on that to be available later this year. So we the main thing with any company is that generating revenue is number one, right? So next year we expect to have these vehicles available. We expect to have our digital platform called Damon IO available to the mass public, right? So we are going to offer for the first time a combination between this HyperSport race and this Damon IO digital platform together as a holistic package as our first offering for the public. Ultimately, what we want to do is really penetrate through the broad market, which is last mile, and you'll see like like one of the big issues that we're trying to resolve with last mile is really just about traffic flow, right? The efficiency of traffic and being able to utilize or have people realize that, you know, two-wheel transportation, whether it's a e-scooter, e-bike, motorcycle, what have you, these are viable forms of transportation outside of just the car, right? And so you are seeing like governments around the world how they're mandating that only specific vehicles are allowed to enter the center of a city given for in a given radius around it, right? Like for example, like Paris, you cannot enter the city of like into the center of Paris unless you are a delivery vehicle or a you know a mobility vehicle, right? Because you know one they want to address the pollution. They don't want cars in the center of the city. It's heavily polluted, and then also congestion. That's an ever growing problem. Now here in North America, we have the luxury of space, right? However, as populations increase, and they will, we're always looking for more efficient forms of transportation, especially with this generation that's coming up now, like the Gen Zs, Gen Alpha, dot dot dot. They're just like, hey, I don't necessarily want to buy one of these things. I want access to it. And what does that mean? Subscription. You know, how do I rent it? How do I lease it? How do I, you know, do something where, you know, the ownership model is not part of my cup of tea. Whether
And
it's
that's
because
the Damon IO ecosystem that you're talking
that's
about.
correct. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so essentially with, Damon IO, it's just meant to get you from here to there and back again in on whatever vehicle you so choose, right? So you have options, and that's the thing. It's like, how can today's generation, I look at my own kids, they're Gen Zs. I got a 20-year-old daughter and 18-year-old daughter, and they don't necessarily want to, Uber everywhere.
Yeah.
They just want simple forms of like accessible, simple forms of transportation because they just want to go to the grocery store and back, and that's it, right? There's like ironically Uber in some parts of the world is expensive,
Yeah.
even for a 5-minute trip, right?
Yeah. So you got bicycles. You'd mentioned three-wheeled. What's an example of a three-wheeled
Yeah,
mobility? Is
three-wheel mobility. What you're seeing is basically two wheels in the front, one in the back. Like you see some of them in Europe. There is one from a group called Piaggio Group. They have this thing called the MP3. It
Yeah.
has like smaller wheels in front and one in the back. And honestly, what it is just a way for people to be more comfortable on those vehicles so that they don't tip over as easily, right? But the point is that the footprint, as populations grow, the footprint of a vehicle has to shrink. So I don't know what your travels, but just go to India, go to China, go to Southeast Asia, everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not just everywhere because this is the, like I said, accessible forms of transportation, but the infrastructure, the municipal and federal infrastructure allows for these type of vehicles to be prolific,
Yeah.
right? If you go to Taiwan, there's very little street parking for cars. It's all scooters. And
Huh.
it's and it
I didn't
and it's
know
just
that.
really interesting that way, right? Because and the infrastructure allows for more scooter, it makes it easier for scooters to get around than cars.
Yeah.
And but the great thing about it actually is because of that infrastructure exists, it doesn't mean that scooters and cars are at odds with each other. They actually work symbiotically. It's quite a, how do I say, um, quite a freeing moment when, like, I remember last time I was there in Taiwan. I took I one of my distributor friends was offering their scooter for me to experience Taiwan, like Taipei specifically, and I said, yeah, absolutely. If we're gonna develop like technology that helps aid in mobility and some of the insecurities you have with it, like the safety concerns, you have to be the one experiencing like they do, right? So when I was riding that scooter, I'm telling you, you can ride as fast or as slow as you want. People will just find a way to get around. As long
Yeah.
as you're consistent, right? It's all good. I mean, from our
Yeah.
view, looking over there, it looks like absolute madness and chaos,
Yeah. I
right?
would
From
imagine.
that
Yeah.
perspective. But when you're there and you're actually doing that activity in that context, it's actually liberating. You're going, hey, you know what? I need to go. So I'm going to pin it and I'm going to go. And traffic allows you to do that. They just
Mm.
basically move out of the way, and those ones are slow, are consistently slow. So they don't do anything, out of the ordinary. So, with our technology with IO, again, whether you're commuting, taking a recreational ride, or last mile delivery, we're trying to make that job of yours much simpler.
Yeah.
We have some future looking views of what last mile delivery could mean for, whether it's everyday goods or high priority goods like plasma, like delivering blood, for example, right?
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, like, that's things that we think about. Is like, why can't we do that with these type of vehicles? Why are they just reserved for, ambulances and whatnot? Of
Mm.
course, there's the training aspect of it. That's well understood, right? You need to have the skills to handle that material, but at the same time, someone on two wheels doesn't think about stopping ever, right? And
Yeah.
that's how the economy is going to work nowadays. Is that we can't stop. We have to keep going, right? So
Yeah, no, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area here, and I've seen the same thing here, and just a creeping upwards the amount of kids on
yeah.
e-bikes, different things like that, and it's just sort of as you were describing that, it really was sort of reminded me about how me driving around to sort of work around them, and they find a way to work around me, right? They
Hmm.
quickly try and get out of my way if they look like they might be getting
Yeah.
into my way, and it's pretty in San Francisco, there's been talk for many years, and they closed down part of the downtown there to new
Yeah.
vehicles, and they're opening it up to Waze and a few of the others, and so that's sort of evolving and changing as time goes by. But I'd be interested to hear about AI, and so your point, how is that good for mobility? What way do you work that in, and how does AI help with making mobility more possible?
It's really recognizing patterns and behavior. How we use it is really to characterize the rider's behavior. How what are their intentions for a given action? At one point in time, as we utilize more sensors, perhaps we're utilizing the heart rate monitoring on your watch, right? Whether it's your Android or Apple Watch. Maybe we'll take advantage of your blood ox level, right? We'll look at like the phone itself represents one of the probably largest collection of sensors that is both in like available on the vehicle or on the product itself, on the device, and externally. It could just hunt, right? And so, utilizing that information, AI allows us to really, again, put context to it and go, hey, I'm going to create a model that understands this rider behavior. So if a rider, for example, you know, has really abrupt movements with their handlebars or with their speed control, hey, that could lead us to believe that this person either is nervous, right? Could be angry, but the point is they're not comfortable, they're not relaxed, and because of that, I'm inferring that their ability to be safe is now dropping. So how
Mm.
can we, through the use of that information, be able to provide messaging, right? As Damon IO is providing messaging for like route guidance or whatnot, how can we do it in such a way that kind of gives you this more relaxed, like how does it ratchet down your anxiety level so that you can now get to this equilibrium of like, hey, I'm excited, yes, but I'm no longer angry, right? So therefore, your other senses are more acute to the world, right? Because talking to like speaking about myself, anytime I'm feeling anxious or nervous, um, I would say that my ability to see things and process it becomes clouded.
Yeah, those, yeah.
But yeah, because I'm feeling hot and I'm just like looking around a lot. And I'm not steady with my gaze, right? Whereas if I was calm, I'm like, okay, I know exactly where I need to go. I see the route ahead of me. I see all these obstacles, so they're all in the back of my mind, and there you go. I beeline to where I need to go. But if I don't have that attitude, then things do creep up because it's because you frankly allow them to, because you're just distracted, right? So how can we avoid that? So,
Yeah.
again, still early days of our development process. We're utilizing those type of models. Right now, we're focused on providing the best track experience you can, coupled with the HyperSport race. Again, it's a way to make you feel more comfortable with your motorcycle when dealing with speed.
Yeah. Well, to take into a little bit of a different direction here about Damon Inc.
Yeah,
Been doing a lot of interviews lately, and one of the things I try to talk about with entrepreneurs, and again, one of the points of the podcast is to give people advice for how to run their businesses better and all
yeah,
that. One of the things I've noticed is that there's a lot of ways that different entrepreneurs it's called business unusual, right? Like there are different ways that they were creating their business, building their business, where they basically bucked the conventional wisdom. They didn't go along with what the advice was, and that it comes along with like marketing. Maybe their marketing was completely different. Maybe they saw a new way to make money and had a new revenue stream that really started to take off, and they just sort of centered the business around that, or those types of things. Or when it came to funding, they didn't take traditional VC funding.
yeah.
For you, what with Damon Inc., what are some ways where you bucked the conventional wisdom and you went in a different direction than what people told you had to go?
Yeah, I think it was, quite frankly, our business model must have changed 50 times, if not more.
Yeah.
Like the courage to just say, hey, I think we need to go this direction when everyone's telling you to go that direction. When we founded the company, it was all on safety, right? And we had this vision of building the safety system that it'd be agnostic to every vehicle, right? And then people were
Mm.
telling us, it's like, hey, you should make a motorcycle and raise 50 million. And like, we're thinking, hold on. All we have is a slide deck and two resumes and maybe our pretty faces. We don't have, we don't have anything to show for this. How can we then ask for 50 million from whom? Right? It's not like we have like, a billionaire friends in our back pocket. Even still, how could we possibly, uh, convince them that, yeah, yeah, I'm your buddy, go ahead and give me 50 million. So we had to go about it in a way where, perhaps licensing was the trend. What licensing is what we needed to do, right? And I would say that, every time you decide on taking a particular path, it is an experiment. As an engineer, I'm telling you, it's an experiment. And so with an experiment, you got to test it, right? And if you get enough data, and what enough is subjective, and you find that it's not going the way you are, then you have to design a new experiment and go a different way. Like, for example, like when we were going and doing the licensing route, we had we actually met with a lot of the OEMs to say, hey, what do you think about these type of safety systems that you can, extract from a car, right? Some of these OEMs have like their big parent are automotive divisions, right? And motorcycle happen to be, a subdivision of that, right? And yet, while they all said this makes a lot of sense for us, decision making at that corporate level, given that infrastructure that they have in place, we were going to die long before, you know, they made a decision, right? And so, one of the trends that we bucked was like, it was kind of going full circle. It's like, hey, maybe we should make a vehicle, and that was difficult, and it was, audacious, right? And we went down that path, and we found some funding to go down that route. Again, your fingers always have to be on the pulse of the market, and you
Mm.
have to adapt to changes in the market. I mean, I understand the conviction of those that are like, are in it, right? And the old cliche, you can't see the forest amongst the trees.
Yeah.
And because you're so much on the ground, just doing what you believe is right. In my opinion, yes, you have to have that conviction, but at the same time, you need to have your eyes up and be able to see how it's developing, because if the market is changing, you need to be able to adapt. And that's, I mean, that's part and parcel to our call it, transformation into moving into more of a software sector, still supporting hardware, because the world has changed as far as their mobility needs are. And also, there's so many players in hardware. I'm like, that's
Hmm.
cool. Why don't we let them why don't we let them do what they do best and let us do what we do best, which is like, hey, why don't we combine the software, our knowledge of the ecosystem, let's work together in a licensing play. Again, kind of coming full circle and then one take over again. Why don't we try that, right? Because again, it's always going to be a series of experiments. Like some will take longer because you're getting traction. Others, you know what, the old cliche about fail fast. I do subscribe to it, but at the same time, I go, you got to understand the problem you're dealing with. If you don't, if you're not on the ground, you're not doing what the customers are doing, then how can you possibly develop a solution for what they want? It
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense to me, right? So, anyways.
Yeah. No, that's great advice for anyone who's, I mean, I think that's what a lot of entrepreneurs are doing out there today is essentially watching the market to try and see what's changing so that they can adapt whatever their skill set is
Yeah.
to handle that that new changing thing. And so let's speaking of where the market is going, talk to me about 2026. What do you anticipate for Damon Inc. in 2026? What do you hope it looks like? What are you planning for?
Well, our plans is to release our HyperSport race and Damon IO. That will be a monumental moment for this company. There's been frankly, there's been a lot of expectations set on us. We set a high expectation on us, and we'll be happy to welcome the first vehicles that get out there into the market to get that feedback. Again, testing, just seeing, hey, how are people responding to it, and then as we continue to develop this platform, look at the next series of vehicles that we have, which is again slated for the urban commuter segment, right? And
Yeah.
and I think that to us is going to be the breakthrough that we need to go into the mass market adoption. Again, Hypersport race, that thing is going to be amazing, and I think it will just give people a really good understanding of how technology, vehicle, user experience all come together. And we're happy to demonstrate it with both the Hypersport Race and Damon IO. Damon IO will be in many different applications. It's going to be foundational to every piece of hardware that, either we make it ourselves or we partner with someone who makes it. I don't care. As long as
Yeah.
on the side of the vehicle it says intelligence by Damon, all good with me.
Sounds good. Yeah, no, again, you're doing the thing that you got to do, which is figuring out what the market needs and
Yeah.
supplying it with those things. Well, let me know. Tell me anything that you feel like you would have liked to have covered that you haven't had a chance to mention yet, just so that we make sure we get everything in
You
there.
know what? We were just talking about just before we jumped on this call. We talked
Mhm.
about how you know fires are always everywhere. Especially when you're the principal dealing with it yourself. And
Yeah.
I was saying, a friend of mine just said, it's very lonely at the top. Being number one. And I just said, just because you're number one doesn't mean you're the only one. And
Yeah.
really what that means is that you do have a team. You as the CEO, you get the honor of making the decision, but at the same time, you do not have to be the only one to gather information, you know, um, be the voice of reason, find a, have many voices of reason. I think it's really important to listen first and then understand things, and then yeah, and then ultimately when you make the decision, you make the decision, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's really helpful to confide in others, just if nothing else, just to be able to like share your thoughts and have someone listen. Because I find it extremely comforting whenever you know whenever I just say, hey, look, I'm feeling this way today. I got out of bed and I'm in a mood, and I'll
Yeah.
tell people I got out of bed, I'm in a mood, and it's not to give me carte blanche to be stupid or be rude. It's just saying, hey, I'm just sharing how I feel today,
Yeah.
and that's it. And sometimes people can help, others sometimes they don't. That's all good, right? So,
Yeah. No, I
yeah,
appreciate you saying that definitely because as we talked about before we began the show, going through the fires that I'm trying to put out over on my
yeah,
end, and you could see the stress on my face and
yeah.
all the rest of that. It meant a lot that you were right away very supportive, and I'm like, oh man, I wish I knew more entrepreneurs like this. But you know, they're all going through their own thing, right? They're
They
all doing,
are.
you know.
They are. You know, hey, you know what they used to, you know what they say, right? Sharing is caring.
Yes.
It is,
Sometimes I
right?
share or care too much, but yeah.
Yeah, I do too.
Hey, so tell me, you know, how if anyone want, you know, how do people find out more about Damon Inc, about the mobility hardware and software
Yeah,
that you're putting out there into the world?
everything you want to know, it's Damon.com, DAMON.com. You'll find everything you want to know about our
That's a great
initiatives,
domain. Good domain.
technology. Yeah, it just makes it simple, right? And yeah, if you have any further questions, I think info@damon.com, fire us a message, ask us anything. We will do our best to answer that question to the best of our ability. And appreciate everybody's support. You know, I appreciate everyone, you know, giving me your 5 seconds to listen. And then maybe I get another 5 seconds later. So thank you for that.
Well, great to have you on the show, Dom Kwong, Dominic Kwong. Great to have you on the show on From the Ground Up today.
Thank you, John.